debt to the Templars and everybody else. He wanted the money. So Philip cooked up a scheme. He went to the Pope. He accused the Templars of everything but the crucifixion itself. He tried to get the Pope to basically purge the Templars. And the Pope, who had never liked King Philip in the first place, told him to get lost. Well, Philip, as I said, was not a nice guy, so Philip had the Pope eliminated, or so the story goes. And then, in comes the next Pope, Philip's good buddy, Clement V. I believe Clement V is the only Pope that never lived in the Vatican. He lived in France, near his friend Philip. And together they cooked up a scheme against the Templars. And on that date that most of us are familiar with, another date that will live in infamy, Friday, October 13th, 1307, they rounded up the Templars, the ones that they could get a hold of. They put them in jail. They tortured them. They got confessions from them. They executed them. And that was how they got rid of the Templars. This went on for several years, though. So put yourself in a position, if you're a Templar, in that area. Number one, you're going to get out of town. Number two, you know where the treasure's buried. So they made their way to the northern shore of France, the ones that could get out, and they did. There's another theory that they made their way to the northern shores of France and went that way. And that arrow points to a place you've probably heard of. It's just about the exact location of Rosslyn Temple in Scotland. And the other thing, there's also this theory that the Knights Templar got up there and they got themselves into the Masonic lodges, and that's why really the Masons and the Knights Templar are connected so well. Take it for what it's worth. I'd really like to hold them till the end.
We're just going to say that De Molay is based on that story.
De Molay is based on, I actually took it out of here. De Molay is based on that story because in 1314, they executed the last Grand Master, who was Jacques de Molay. And in fact, we just celebrated, if celebrate is the right word, the 700th anniversary of that execution last month. So you're correct. So anyway, if it did go to northern Scotland, then in 1398, there is speculation that one of the Sinclairs, and there are a bunch of them, Henry, also took it across the sea, and they've never found any treasure in Rosslyn Chapel, so, maybe it happened. And where did they take it? Well, of course, they took it to Oak Island. Funny thing, I couldn't get that on my slide. If you draw a line from southern England or northern France straight over to what you would call the New World, it just almost naturally falls there. Anything north or south is just too far a trip. So take that for what it's worth as well. So that's pretty much how the Templars got the stuff to Oak Island. You may see a flaw or two in that. For example, the Templars were clerics. They were not scientists. And the prevailing thought of the day was that if you sailed east out of Europe, you're going to fall off the edge of the earth. So they might or might not have tried something like that. Maybe they knew they wouldn't. I just don't know. If you don't think that's the best theory to go by, we have many more. Let's go back to Enoch in the Bible. There's not much about Enoch in the Bible. Maybe 5 or 6, I was going to say passage, but it's more like sentences. We do know that God thought Enoch was a good man. So he wanted to reward him for being a good man. And from the Bible we learned that Enoch did not even die. God just swept him into heaven. There's also an apocryphal book of Enoch, in which we learn that God thought Enoch was such a good man that he decided to reveal to Enoch his ineffable name. And in a dream, he takes Enoch to the clouds, he writes the name in the clouds, he whispers the name to Enoch, and then he transports him to a series of 9 chambers, subterranean, where Enoch finds the name etched on a triangular pedestal. Enoch woke from the dream. He was so impressed by this whole thing that he built those 9 chambers. He built a triangular pedestal in a stone vault at the bottom of those 9 chambers, and he put the ineffable name there. In the 13th degree of, I'm speaking southern jurisdiction now, 13th degree of the Scottish Rite, we have 3 guys who sort of excavate Enoch's chambers. They descend through the 9 arches to the stone vault. Everything is dark. They uncover the triangular pedestal. Everything comes to light, and they discover the ineffable name of God. That's pretty much the Reader's Digest version of our 13th degree. Very similar degree in the York Rite, and as we go back in history, the 7th degree of the York Rite and the 13th degree of the Scottish Rite merge. They become even more similar, which is important. In the York Rite, the 3 sojourners discover the jewels of the Grand Masters, a pot of manna, Aaron's rod, and the book of the law. Going back to what we have at Oak Island, kind of recapping. Way at the top of that pit, we've got the flagstones that the first boys discovered. Now at the bottom of the pit, we've got what we believe to be the stone vault containing the parchment that was dug up when they drilled the cores. We've got the oak logs every 10 feet. There is sea level, which is where the thing flooded to. And we also have some uncanny coincidences between the chambers, or the chambers of Enoch, and that pit at Oak Island. Number 1, 3 men discovered and excavated both the chambers of Enoch and the pit at Oak Island. 3 men. Number 2, at the top of the thing was a triangle of trees, and triangles are very important in the 13th degree of the Scottish Rite. The most important thing, of course, is the triangular pedestal on which sits the ineffable name of God. There were on that tree that overhung the pit what people call Masonic markings, or, to quote it exactly, markings by which Masons identify themselves. We don't know what they are, but we can speculate. At the top of Enoch's chambers, he built a pillar with cryptic markings on it, and there were also cryptic markings on the door that led into the chamber. At the top of Enoch's chambers, he built, and this is in the Bible, an altar of unhewn stones. The boys found unhewn stones, the flagstones, at the top of the pit. Enoch built a stone vault as his last chamber, and in the last chamber of the pit, we have a stone vault. Enoch had 9 chambers. Count them. There are 9 chambers in the money pit at Oak Island. Now in that last stone vault, there is parchment, which many people say correspond to the book of the law that was put down there in the York Rite part of the degree. the workers from the Onslow Company tapped on that stone with a crowbar and found out it was hollow. Straight from the degree. They tapped on the stone with a crowbar and they found out it was hollow. They found a cement slab with an iron ring at the top of the chamber at Oak Island, and same thing in both degrees of the Rites. And finally, this is a little bit of a stretch, but a flood came along and destroyed everything that Enoch had done. And the flood came along and destroyed everything that had been done at Oak Island. So there are your uncanny coincidences. If you want more, let's take a look at some of the Masonic connections on this island. In 1967, a guy was excavating earth with a bulldozer, and he turned a rock over, and this is what was on the bottom of the rock, and it was on the east end of the island. Letter G inside a rectangle. They also discovered a rock that has a point within a circle. Now, Masons don't have a copyright on a point within a circle, but there again, when you start to add all of this stuff up, it does start to look fairly Masonic. In that cove, that man-made cove, they found just under the surface this rock, which people have taken a look at and said there is no way that rock was made naturally. That rock has been carved in the shape of a heart, which many think allude to our sword pointing to the naked heart, another symbol of Freemasonry. Down here on this end of the island, they found a triangle. And of course, if it's a triangle, it's got to be Masonic. And the triangle itself points directly to the money pit. This one wasn't so easy to find. They didn't find it until 1981. There were some rocks on the island that looked similar. They looked like that. That's a picture of one of them. And they were spaced really far apart. Somebody finally got the idea that maybe they were connected, and when they checked it out, they are in the shape of a Christian cross, maybe alluding back to the Knight Templar. And in the very center is a rock with a skull carved into it. The cipher stone, a lot of people, you know, if it's cryptic, it's got to be Masonic. There are, however, some things on the cipher stone that, you know, may lead back to the Masons. We've got these triangles, some other triangles, cross. This is a point within a circle, may or may not have Masonic meaning. They have found working tools all over the island. Well, if you're doing excavation, you need tools. But they did find, for example, a square, again, down by that fake cove. I don't know why you need a square to dig a hole, but a lot of people think that, again, you find one tool that's not Masonic, but when you find all of these tools in the same place, it looks like something Masonic has been going on the island. They found three things that they thought might be buttons. They thought they might be coins. They didn't know what they were. A report from the Halifax Morning Sun in 1863, the author said that upon his inspection, they were absolutely nothing but Masonic jewels. Here on the island, is that me? I was just going to leave if it was me. They dug a hole next to the money pit because they can't get down through the water. So they wanted to see if they could see if anything else was down there by going down and coming across. They called this borehole 10X. You'll never hear anything about Oak Island without hearing about borehole 10X. 230 feet deep. They have found some gaps in the hole. They found a lot of white in there. And they also found some low-grade carbon steel. Remember we said we'd talk about the other space alien theory? Some guy has decided that all of that amounts to the manna machine that space aliens gave the Israelites to make manna. Well, I probably wouldn't have even mentioned it, but you will run into it if you study this thing. And he wrote a whole book about it, and that's a picture from the book. So,
Bread machine.
take it, yeah, bread machine. Oh yeah, it could be. Take it for what it's worth. They found some other things that might be a little more believable. They found an axe, a treasure chest, and a dead body. Well, now we're getting somewhere. Do you remember what I said at the first? They allegedly found all those things. But see, they did this in about 1972 or 3. There are videos of what they found down in that hole. There's the axe. Can you see it? No. Yeah. Well, that's somebody's depiction of the axe that they found down there. There's your treasure chest. And I will tell you, because when I first saw this, I said, well, that has nothing to do with it. There's the treasure chest they think they found. I mean, I'm trying to use all of my imagination, and let's just go with it. Now, the dead body, that's got some form to it. So the problem is, it's supposed to be a headless dead body. One of the guys I talked to about this thought it might be Jimmy Hoffa. Now we get to the History Channel. They went out there in 2013 and they started slogging in the mud through this place. And if you've seen the episodes, there's a whole lot more slogging through the mud and a whole lot more commercials than there is things of substance. But I mean, my hat's off to them, and I hope they find something. This guy on the left here, Dan Blankenship, is now 90 years old, and he can practically keep up with them. He's been on this island for years and years and years. He is the guy that turned over the stone that had the letter G on it. And so they're excavating again. They have found, on the programs, if you've watched them, they found some coconut fiber. Again, hats off to them. They took the stuff, they took it to a scientist, he took a look at it, and he said, yes, this is coconut fiber, and it dates, he carbon dated it back to about 12 to 1400. So it predates the money pit. So we're starting to get at least some scientific evidence here. They found some bone. They still have not announced what they think the bone is, whether they've had it tested or not. One of the guys said some kittens had fallen into the hole. It could be a bone of a kitten. It could be human. We don't know. They also rediscovered. They were not the first to discover, but they rediscovered down in that man-made cove these blocks, these concrete or stone blocks, that point directly to the money pit. Now, it took divers to go down and get them, so I don't know how you do that prior to 1795, except we do know it's a man-made cove, and at some point it may have been a lot shallower than it is today. So there could be something to that. No question, whatever it is man-made. It's not a natural thing, and there's no question that they point directly to the money pit. They would be located right over here in this ever-famous Smuggler's or Smith's Cove, and they just point like that toward the money pit. Now the thing is, if it's supposed to be a sign as to where to go to dig the treasure, and you know about it, and then you've got this other thing over here that's supposed to be pointing toward the money pit, you know where the treasure is. So it's something to keep in mind anyway. They found metal, lots of metal chips. And the big find on the show that ended the season was that they found a coin. And, you know, they all